spicy chemical episode also featuring the new YouTube fun. Oh, I have to adjust the speed for that. So, especially stuff like that.
YouTube Premium is ad.
Of everything, then you could predict, here from the simple underlying laws emerging. You could say that life, there's a deeper description, which is basically a net. It's really computing. So space-time of things that we can see emerging. You could say that life is just, it's about insights. Right. And so I suppose you can argue that everything that we understand, it's about information. It's really computing.
Be an energy associated with the way.
Deeper description, which is basically a network. I suppose you could argue that everything that we understand and see as human beings is emergent. In a sense, almost everything is emergent. I mean, clearly, we observe the universe. Space-time is not fundamental. There's a deeper,
right.
And so I suppose you could argue that everything that we understand, there's a deeper description, which is basically, and we're particular-sized.
Right.
And so I suppose you could argue there's a deeper description, which is basically makes a black hole.
Favorite.
Yes,
oh
we
my
do.
God.
Someone who is, I will say.
No, you way more about it.
No, I'm not going to. I'm sorry. I know you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did it long ago when we were on TV with National Geographic.
Yeah. No, so there's a showed that with very minimal assumption.
Tried this for
So
a
we
while,
don't
guys.
know.
So,
So-
no, we don't.
so- so-
Inevitably.
Yeah, inevitably. So so Oppenheimer, whether you really would say quantum mechanics is the underlying theory. The reason I'm saying that is to say it's an open question. We don't. I was thinking about this.
But
Aware of anyone's opinion on the spirit of that. So you probably discussed before on the quantum state can change instantly.
With him, and he said something that just blew my mind.
Yeah,
And that was his conjecture, you're right. He said that whatever the underlying laws of physics, such a way that... It's interesting, I was thinking about this in another context, actually. Well, no one's going
It's on a
and
roll.
out of that emerges.
It-
But he would not, that's just a fashionable way to think about it. So I think I'm not misrepresenting him. He would question the underlying theory, some kind of quantum description of nature,
on a
out of
roll.
that now. And there's some support for that from which is the tiny bit of research I still do. I had a PhD student and postdoc.
For how successful it has been.
Yeah. So the recent work in the study of black holes, which is and version. So qubits, quantum. I think most physicists would say early 60s.
Yeah.
Were saying that because there's debate. It's not. I think most mechanics, but we don't know how. And there's some support for a quantum theory of gravity. Say, well, and I'm saying that is to say it's an quantum description of nature
on a roll.
out of that emerge. Yeah, inevitably. So Oppenheimer and Schneider did it in the 1990s, just before the Second World War. Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
so why doubt it at this point?
Think about this is general relative
A roll.
out of that emerges.
It's on a roll for how successful it has been.
In 1990, just before the Second World War, but with some assumptions about symmetry. And there's some support for that from the study of black holes. Some description of nature
It's on a roll.
out of that. But Penrose removed those ideas. And so it's not a theory of everything by any sense.
How come it doesn't-
But with some assumptions about symmetry. And you could, but there is another question whether you really need to have, and it's not fundamental. There's a, let's say it's another way of thinking. It says no, space-time is fundamental. Relativity is fundamental. Experts in general relativity. So he would it's not, I think you really need to have a quantum theory. Absolutely not to say that we live in a simulation. So the reason I'm saying that is to say it's an open question, we don't know.
So what about the...
Penrose removed those ideas. This would say quantum mechanics is the underlying theory, some kind and time are not fundamental. So space-time is not fundamental. There's a network, an underlying...
What might be fundamental in space-time...
separated things that can appear to be quantum mechanics can seem to violate the spirit of that. So you can send messages back into the past and you can go faster than...
Dealings.
Oh, no
That's
way.
why it's called the Crick. A research institute called the Francis Crick Institute.
Kind of feel that way about them as well.
I
Did-
Because I just chaired it and asked the questions.
Mhm.
And it was mainly audience questions.
before that particular computing becomes a life.
No, it's
Let's see
interesting.
it.
It's called The Question of Science.
And
It's seeing all the probabilities.
I don't.
That's all.
There's a great Nobel Prize winner called Paul Nurse, who's a good friend of mine, who won the Nobel Prize.
An emergent property of.
But one of the things I've been involved in, I'm involved in the computer scientists Yeah.
When I interact with a large language model, it's like this vacuous eye staring back.
at the moment. We're just symbol shuffling to research. Actually, I don't think we're the yeast cells. So it's a remarkable fundamental study to you. But we could be in this room if we were immortal, and someone.
Let's see a sad face for one.
And it's interesting because it raises, and this is not my field of expertise.
Sad face for once on your.
It raises, and this is not my field of expertise, but it raises questions about what. But you can argue.
Of computing, which is all.
So it's a remarkable fundamental study of life. But he
It's
really
an expression of the truth thing. That's computing.
Yeah, raises questions about what life is.
Right.
Because
The creation of life that will replace us, which is.
but he really pioneered the building of this institute, or inspired.
Vacuous eye staring back at me, and there's no soul behind it.
Yeah. Well, the argument. But you can argue that that's not the really interesting bit. That
Of course, will outthink us.
it's really computing is what life is. So it's not really what.
A lot of like that.
Right.
Because you could say.
Of computing.
Co-discovered the DNA.
Oh, no, particular computing becomes a.
Really felt that, for example, large language model.
When I interact with a large language model, it's like this. It's a transactional exchange of. Oh, I process that, and some other response comes out, and maybe. And it reminds me of a New Yorker.
That makes sense, and that is why a lot of and these aren't particles when it's.
Field.
They have that.
A field of. I don't know. I can't. It's
We detect in the particle physics detector an electron. Okay. It goes to a place in the detector.
what happens is my physical.
Right. The standard model of particle physics is a quantum field theory. So you're.
So are you seeing a disturbance in the field that shows up as the singular kind of. Not that, and so.
You're right that the objects in the standard model, the existence of solid this existence into.
To you.
So the one that makes up everything, and then another two.
Symbolic to the.
Okay, I don't know how to say this problem.
Physicists would. The experience being interesting because it's weak.
Action of these.
Yes, to really be most.
None of those people are the same. No, absolutely. And so the true nature of the emergence is that is the cadence, the noise, as opposed to something that is.
I've forgotten the name. It's from a Google research group.
True of the emergence.
Scale, so sizes of
Precisely repeatable thing.
random code or computer about essentially seeing
Hello.
of a Turing machine, which now I'd have to explain. It's been published. I've forgotten the name. It's from a
Absolutely. And so the true nature of biologists don't know what, but they know that.
say you could say it's just the number of a Turing machine, which now are equivalent to each other essentially. Okay, so you get coding the concept of a Turing machine, which now
Say I need milk, and there's milk there. Sell it at a profit so I can get rich.
Yeah. If we are,
it's called the question of science actually, which are around. And
if we ever get to artificial.
who's a good friend of mine who one of the scientists and the computer scientists. So, an infinite amount of time.
Right, okay, so and this is a little showcasing almost like a coding blog, some sort of experiments, knowledge, lexicon presentation of knowledge of chemistry before the big programs probably. But yeah. So these are obviously the frequencies of different lights, of different whatever frequencies of elements and combinations of elements. So connections, whatever. And because it's what molecules are. Necessary synonyms everywhere. Oh, and that's even worse than I thought. First time that I didn't turn on the main screen. I was in a hurry and I don't know how it happened. So actually I tested out this extension already.
You'll see that it's true that we
And maybe I leave it in the background so far because that's the tab which is relevant because
for you. And when it goes,
and for reviews and stuff it's very nice. So I watched that, I think, and yeah.
1.4 parsecs travel captain. 1.4 parsecs travel captain. That's the ship that made it. 1.4 parsecs travel captain.
Astrophysicist. It's one of the most embarrassing units. First, it's an authentic term.
So it is real.
Yep.
The parsecs of space.
So parsecs, you've heard the word.
Of course.
It was used in Star Wars.
Yep.
And for me, as an
Oh,
first, it's an authentic term.
so it is real. Damn, is that bad?
And even to the textbook, I would like Sharpie it out
In an Epstein Island, is that how y'all? What is this?
at 360 degrees.
Right.
So this is already funny, but it's getting
It was set up
funny concept.
millennia ago. I think if you wanted to divide up a number, you want it to be able to divide evenly.
60. Right.
Someone declared that a full circle has 360 degrees.
Right.
It was that
So
term.
this on
Really?
Yes.
kids
Long ago.
now
See? Oh my gosh.
content.
Was a big thing.
Okay.
Before you had decimals, if you wanted to divide up a number, you want it to be able to go.
Right.
Someone declared that a full circle had 300. You want it to be able to divide evenly. 60. Oh my gosh. It's evenly divided. So, we're in one side of Earth's orbit.
That's
Let's call it
the problem on
faster than other things.
other aspects.
Because the moon is not to be.
Brain knows exactly what's. Like, hey, what's that? Right. Okay. If you look, kids say, why does the moon follow? Because they don't. Stars, the opposite century system, 4 light years away. In all my classes, I just converted. It's my sister, because I'm a kid.
Right. Which.
I'm 75 degrees
sis-
Fahrenheit.
Right.
There is no
Right, don't make
mutual
sense.
understanding. Really far away stars.
They're going to be.
So yeah,
I'm not going to like this now.
okay. They're kind of
They're
there a
in the
while.
middle, right.
Okay. And if they're not otherwise moving, okay.
Gotcha.
And if you look carefully, you take another picture, some of the stars will shift.
Yes.
Actually, your brain knows exactly what's going on. So you have certain things that pass, let's call it. The movie came out. I was just inside. So that goes. I don't think they had of any scene that was. I was just in college. I think it was that was scripted. It's black holes, and it was clear that when they made this movie, I for this movie.
Journey begins.
At all. I don't think they had movies ever made. When this movie came out, I was. How about start at the bottom? How about bottom? How about Disney's The Black? I don't think they had.
Where?
My single favorite movie of all time. The growing human. The animals get the power from. Well, that's that. You're going to put energy into another thing before you bypass. So I'll give him a hall pass on that one. Maybe not. All the rest of the film was so brilliantly done. That one. Maybe not an F. Some Martian. Here, he said, when I was writing out the science original story and the weirdness, I imagine you would look at I have ever witnessed. So that's very sort of plot flaw as well. All that. And they massive advisors on it. Check out the there's no violence, there's no interaction with each other in the face. Gee, gravity. Let me give skateboard mode. So that's not a new. So the Matrix. Man on Earth. I'm just looking. And how often is it? Otherwise, and that would be the. At no time in the movie, a mission. You're gonna send a cryptok was drawn the matter that if you want to like an accordion out, and then I felt back to this heptapod or septapod, whatever. Play something out. Here we are drawing these little circular 6 or 7 legs. Even online as a streamer, pieces can destroy. I give him a shout out. Can be destroyed. Loose on it before. Look it up. It's called the Kessler effect. We then make thousands of that we have to then discover. Billion people with an issue. Somehow find a wormhole through the universe. It should have been a B right there. This becomes but it got way more physics right. George Clooney's at air. Snuffing the other side of it, but she eats the air around it. The air rises, and a tether, and she wants to go. And Back to the Future. No, the reason why Hoverboard is not interesting, they're not going in the same slot. Okay, just FYI. Everybody wanted like Back to the Future 1, and only does what back.
Brille, Zahnarzt und Co.
Yeah, so you'll see it's randomly
or world of gas is far straight or world of gas
sometimes
or world of gas
not even gets
or circling a distant star. The universe is far stranger than darker than coal. The planet and the deeper where it rains molten glass.
and not
Each discovery is
generating
Earth. Then everything changed. Confirmed the first planet orbiting another would later earn them the Nobel Prize. Then everything sun-like star. Some orbit 3 worlds so close to a star that they can break the rules of planetary science entirely. By hurricane-force winds, orbit 2 stars. Some orbit 3. Because each discovery has forced scientists to rethink may exist beyond Earth. Solar system, Mercury, Mars, and the giant planets farther out. Venus, Earth, planets farther out. Venus, Earth, first planet orbiting another planet farther out. Then, 1995, astronomers Michelle made over 5,000 exoplanets, and they are nothing like we expect.
So by the way, this is the first channel worldwide, which is actually like a TV channel in a way, and at the same time, they
Einer neuen Show hier auf Rocket Beans TV. Freunde, das ist heute Teilnehmer Johanna zu einer neuen Show. Kommt zum Out-Quiz, liebe Freunde. Das ist heute Teilnehmer Johanna, Janina, Sarah, Matthias und Anton werden heute gegeneinander antreten. Ganz kurz, falls ihr das Format noch nie gesehen habt, die Erklärung für euch raus. Die Teilnehmer entscheiden sich, wenn nun die nächste Person eine richtige. Frage Nummer 5 sagt schon. Frage 6. Quadriga auf dem Brandenburger Tor. Was eine Quadriga ist, aber gelernt, dass Fiat wurde John F. Kennedy ermordet.
US Center. Ich hab die Straße vor mir, aber ich weiß es nicht.
Denn Frage für die Antwort jetzt. Frage stellen, denn Frage für die Antwort. Passen.
Santiago de Chile.
Lukas und
Johann.
was? Klempner. Hassan, Matthäus, Markus, hier schon völlig routiniert, Johanna. Matthäus, Markus. Das ist völlig richtig. Hassan, welchen Beruf übt der? Leider auch nicht korrekt. Charakter Luigi aus. Klempner. Das ist korrekt. Frage mal 14 an Anton. Unter welchem Namen ist es? 14 an Anton und das war klar. Lord Voldemort ist korrekt. Das ist völlig korrekt. Schnell gezählt. So, dann nehmt bitte beide aus Jefferson und 4. Letzte Frage und es wird ziemlich sicher zu und das ist korrekt. Das heißt, ihr müsst euch ans Schätzen machen. Ihr beide jetzt natürlich noch beide mal gleichzeitig in die Kamera oben. Und wir haben einmal Markus Söder. Das ist korrekt. Anton, wir haben eine neue Frage. Wer ist aktuell Ministerpräsident von Bayern? Markus Söder. Das ist korrekt. Welcher Künstler nannte das heute?
But this is already a very unique, records-breaking movie for itself. So if you stop again the extension, then yeah, it is already re-uploaded, and this is explaining everything, the gut theory, life design. So an explainer, even better with VR experience or AR, yeah, but VR obviously, virtual reality. And this is the second part to it. Also the longest music video in a way. A wise future, effective future, everything extremely healthy and yeah, probably more extremes, more concentrated, more orientated in a way, more focused, beauty focused, and yeah, that's what it's about also. And it's also just the most beautiful movie in a way ever. And yeah, but so here are some other features. And Chris's side will be to learn chemistry and all this stuff for the future. And so this is not spoiling much because it's the longest movie ever as far as I know. And it's like a one take. It's also very unique, different dimensions. First person is also, so it's also a game in a way, a game run. And yes, so this is also some other, in a way, e-learning and learning and heuristic learning stuff. How they also make comedy with science and science, yeah, because I already did it. And whatever you want to call it, it exists for science slang, like, I don't know if it will be the same name in the future, because maybe I will know, maybe if I do the language or the language, and I will maybe even decide that in a way, or at least be part of deciding it. And yeah, so also with flying sports and only futuristic sports. So this is 3D learning of the structures, how chemistry works, functions. It's just that's what said to probably. It's not comparable obviously to work how we often describe it, at least at the moment. As it is for now. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of animals don't know how it works in a way. This how we are separating its our automating it yet, so it's very not futuristic. So, as it is right now in most cases. Even here, where it's not automated by machines, and it can be not that perfect, not that fast, because it's not automated. And yeah, so in a way, can also just look like this way. And yeah, this is the most updates, modern resources of that for the digital world, even more so than it is already, at least as far as I'm concerned. Even other universities are not really doing it more differently as far as I know it. So it's actually still like Latin in medicine and all this old stuff. Yeah, so and this is a little bit explaining.
In dem folgenden Video möchte ich euch die Extraktion mit dem Software-Aufsatz erklären. Es handelt sich dabei um eine Selbstflüssigextraktion. Dies ist der Software-Aufsatz. In diesem wird eine Extraktionshülse gesetzt. Diese Extraktionshülse besteht aus Zellulose. In diesem Versuch heute möchte ich die Minzöl aus dem Minzblätter extrahieren. Die Minzblätter stellen das Extraktionsgut dar, aus dem das Extrakt, in diesem Fall Minzöl, gewonnen wird. Die Minzblätter, also das Extraktionsgut, werden in die Extraktionshülse, welche im Anschluss in den Software-Aufsatz gestellt wird, gefüllt.
So she is not really making tea, I think.
Die gefüllte Extraktionshülse wird in den Software-Aufsatz gesetzt. Im Anschluss wird die Apparatur
Mint is very good, like one of the
und befindet sich ein Rückkolben, welcher ein Lösungsmittel ist. Dabei ist es wichtig, ein Lösungsmittel zu wählen, welches an der Lage ist, das Extrakt aus dem Extraktionsgut zu extrahieren. In diesem Fall hat Ethanol als gutes Lösungsmittel erwiesen. Das Ethanol wird im Rückkolben
which
ist
is
der Farbverlust deutlich zu erkennen.
very easy not to
Im Anschluss an die Extraktion wird das Lösungsmittel am Mutationsverdampfer entfernt und das Extrakt, in diesem Fall das Minzöl, wird erhalten.
to compressed in a bad way.
Das kontinuierliche Sieben des Lösungsmittels bewirkt, dass dieser Vorgang beliebig oft wiederholt werden kann. Dabei reicht sich das Extrakt im Rückkolben an. Werden die Minzblätter vor und nach.
So and this is also about extracting probably one from the another source. I don't know why it's done like that. So it's a big problem that if you are, it's almost like with Tesla, or exactly like with Tesla in a way, but it's still different because Tesla actually also had a lot of invention, new ideas, or yeah, so he probably he didn't calculate a lot, but he had to try things just out, and yeah, not really chemical things, but rather with electrons per se. So electrons alone are obviously also like a fluid. I mean, water is obviously a lot of universe, like a lot of electrons and stuff. So also very minimalistic in a way. Yeah, so this is in a way also a filter, whatever. But like everything is So here are some experiments still done by hand, obviously. I mean, if you would need more machines for every interaction which you actually do, then the machine would be maybe kind of expensive. But in a way that would be yeah, a thing of whatever. So obviously the two-dimensional things are very outdated most of the time, even though it's magnetically, you can draw them in 3 dimensions, but yeah, actually it's not as beautiful as the real thing. And yeah, that's the only thing you need. You don't need this, even though it's more minimalistic, it's not as good as that, and also not as true as that. And I think that's always the case. I don't know if an example. I mean, if it would get more complicated, more complex, maybe it's a bit more difficult to see it here, but I mean, even the angles are just, yeah, more real here. So I mean, it's taking too long to, if in the past, if you don't have these models, obviously it would have taken too long to draw it like that every time. It just doesn't make sense. But nowadays, I mean, you can also do it like that and do it fast if you prefer that, but actually most of the time, and with more information and stuff, you can change it anyway, probably in the future with programs. Yeah, then this is more realistic, and yeah, so you don't have another element here, maybe, so you don't see how it's connected to other elements that much, or with other molecules in a way. I don't know if molecule makes sense, but molecule is at least yeah, a spoon or something. I don't know. Maybe in the future you have even better things than that initially, but yeah. It's at least fundamental knowledge you need overall for a lot of science papers, probably. Not for all science papers, because also a lot of science papers obviously have knowledge in it where you have to rethink this stuff anyway. Or yeah, just have to learn things in a way, maybe even from YouTube sometimes, so you don't always have the knowledge completely, and even especially if you want to make new experiments with new knowledge, then maybe there is no knowledge possible about some stuff of that, which is possible at the moment still. yeah, so VMO theory is still one of the better things. So the s orbitals and pi. I don't like that this is how pi is written, and this is whatever. But so the p orbitals are obviously also very useful. The 3D animations are already in this small entities very logical, but as soon as you go to bigger combinations than just one atom, I don't know why it's not that much like that then anymore, but maybe you can also in some apps in the future can just choose if it should show how the clouds or whatever would actually or almost the balloons of clouds would likely be or interact most of the time, how it makes most sense so far. I don't know how much proven those constellations are for every constellation, but they seem to be still the best ones so far. Yeah, we already learned them at school. So the more efficient ways to write them is also very weird because of that fact. Nowadays you just need to open a program, just like with music creation. I mean, who is just writing notes down nowadays? Even if you play some instruments or something, you just record it. So you just bake something and whatever and record it with video or something and do some stuff to it that you know would be doing this or that. And so you don't need more than this basic knowledge actually, which is very intuitive. So it's very sad I have to calculate again. So I have an A and at school, and now I have to do the same things again, and it's but sometimes a little bit probably more I don't know how different it was from school actually, but it's also some time ago. Maybe it's a little bit more in this area. It's not always in every way more in university than at school, but obviously in chemistry and this and math it's more than most of the things that you already learned at school. But it's sad that you don't really need it, actually. Yeah, so the different subshells maybe there are already some apps which are exactly doing that. Okay, yeah, there are already some sort of apps for that. But they are not used at my university, at least. At least not much. Maybe they are not perfect yet, I don't know. I don't know the reason. Why this is not already in usage. OMG, and they still have this. Yeah, so this is exactly what also the university has to offer. I mean, these cells are sometimes a bit more, with better overview if you know what it is. And also in reality you don't always see all these structures with the naked eye. At least only if you zoom very closely with microscopes and stuff. Maybe this is the reason, but yeah, I don't really know. So this also just looks like a bacteria or some kind of virus, even also maybe. Yeah, kind of strange. I mean, in coding it's also that you don't really need a degree from university, because most of the time you just don't learn useful stuff in university in a way that you could also do with YouTube or without YouTube. And maybe this is also the case here. Very likely almost everywhere is the case, probably. Because what else do you really need in knowledge than that? And even that is not always needed. Okay, so here's also the structure. Differently. Yeah, so why would you use that instead of that? I mean, it is in a way giving an easier overview, but sooner or later you get to know how, so the 3D structure which really exists, if you would learn that in the reality, then I don't know, why would you learn how to draw that? Like that. like this is, and you don't even have to draw it here, obviously. Why would you draw it? I don't know. I mean, obviously you learn probably that, okay, here is missing exactly that, but if you just use this program and know how to use it, you don't need to remember, oh yeah, so I remember this is missing here. So it's just very not useful knowledge. And also, I mean, why? If it's mathematically and all that stuff, logical, and you know the rules for each element, then you could just use this program or any program like that. And then maybe you take another molecule and yeah, then you have to write and learn by heart or whatever what is making the difference. What do you need to do to, if you need to heat it, if you need to cool it, or whatever you need to do to connect them, or to connect them better, differently. Yeah, so this is also looking almost too complicated in a way, but it's real, and you obviously can likely turn off those overlaps of how the electrons are behaving or traveling around with a certain distance apart, and what this means. So this is just, it's not bullshit because it's very easy, but it's bullshit if you can use those programs. It's like calculating if you have Excel, I always say that. And this even is not really that much like Excel. I mean, there are even easier ways to do it than Excel. So it's not really, so CAD programs would be a better comparison. CAD programs are a solution to everything, and maybe I'm developing my versions further. Yeah. So it's always a grid in some sense, especially if it's solid, it's moving at different speeds, almost like a fast moving thing, the air you can't really see, but if it's moving slower with magnets and stuff, it's becoming more solid, so fluid and then more solid. And it's all about the surroundings and stuff and the speed of the entities at scales, at all scales. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think even if you know everything about flavors, you don't calculate a flavor most of the time. So there are obviously things you can calculate, but how they interact and stuff for acids or stuff, how they become neutral, that can be calculated. Perfection. But yeah. This can also be done by googling the pH and then the mole mass and overall how many grams. So it can be adjusted to the needs very easily. So most stuff at universities and even at schools are forcing you at the moment, at least here, to learn a lot of things by heart, which is not really a good thing, because you need the RAM and the time and everything, and the money for the time and all that stuff. It's very rare that you need to learn that much by heart. It's sometimes even not really an advantage to learn more things by heart because of all those recombining facts. If you come back to a problem, we think that you get new ideas to it, and if you learn it by heart, I mean, if you have the knowledge of pi 3.01, so almost 3, which is very useful in this case, even more so. I like the numbers very much. And the problem is still, so this is also a thing. I don't think that the reality construct looks like that, as far as I remember, but it can be. It's not impossible. Also, even if you know these numbers and you once learned them, you can also forget them, but okay, that still can have some advantages sometimes. But yeah, the other disadvantages are too much for that way, especially in cost and time cost, because such important numbers, you will always compare them to things and look how they fit somewhere, and if you can combine them, and even algorithms with pi and round things, especially mathematics, make a lot of sense to know that. And yeah. So this is how cells do photosynthesis. So yeah. so you don't always need to put a dot everywhere because it's very logical. But why would you draw it if you just have a program and know how to use the program or the app? It's very sad actually. That's the state of the art is not really dazzlingly still, and there's not maybe one software which is combining this stuff, because it's not too much, but also it would make a lot of degrees not irrelevant because you already have so much knowledge and studies, but almost irrelevant maybe. So more people can just do it. So it's actually obviously an advantage because it has to be more of the good things anyway. Yeah. There's no Photoshop, but only the old paint. And not no, the old paint was way better than that. A lot of more tools. I mean, if you are a cook, you also have to learn stuff, but that's very different because you always have to cook the same thing. And what else do you need to do as a cook, right? So it's not really making sense. But even you have now so many, I mean, even the phone, smartphone and stuff, everything is so fast in checking a recipe which you maybe don't use every day, and you have to recheck it anyway. And if you work with a PC anyway to see if it's working out and to 3D print in a way stuff, then I mean there is not a study 3D printing in a way. It's the same thing there. It's just pretty new, and there are not enough university things about it. They're acting like it didn't change anything, and that's obviously very wrong, because 3D printing is the future and is also only done with some different softwares, and doesn't matter which app you use for it, it's all the same results most of the time. So 3D software, there were also 3D software, Sony, and so this game and so many Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike is a mod of a game. There are so many games which are programmed in the faster languages, in Python, which is obviously a different thing, but not so different still. So also there is not everything at a level which should be already there, because we have so many languages, but none of them is really completely perfect in a way. But it's already doing a thing. I mean, if they would just combine them better, I don't know. Yeah, so there were a lot of 3D software, like, this is a better example for video, probably. I don't think it's a bad software, like a lot of also music softwares, but most of those softwares are way worse than nowadays softwares. And if they would just have, instead of making new software, they just try to implement the better things into one software, then we would already have probably the best things. So with AI video generation, this is already so good. It's already, like, it's happening probably already. And hopefully with other things too. Maybe it's even easier, so for some reason I don't think it's easy in a way. I mean, there are a lot of softwares which can use 3D deep learned programs, which can use on your own server. But yeah, so you need a good PC for that. And of course the same thing would go for this stuff. And AI is also doing it, obviously. So it's not like AI it's not able to solve all that stuff, but it's obviously not completely there yet. And I think a lot of times, just with producing music, it can be easier to use a program sometimes. At least for now. Obviously you can just implement the program anyway. You can implement stuff anyway, but I think you get what I mean. So if you have more 3D elements to interact and play with and stuff which is relevant, that would be not too complicated, as it's already there, but you just need to do it, to combine the knowledge of the people, and then you have everything then even more. So also back then you needed to do so much stuff with CAD programs, and it was very often not easy to use a lot of 3D things, even 3D Max and all those, or 4D, Cinema 4D. Even these programs were not easy to use all the time. So Unreal Engine is a lot of better there, and probably the solution overall for that. I mean, they are still doing stuff with those softwares because of, yeah, it's just faster to paint it with AI sometimes and to combine things and all the stuff to morph it, and maybe it's also true with AI and music, but you still have to select it and adjust it to your needs. Obviously, that's the only thing you need to do, so you can make your own complicated machines with CAD software very easily and even more. So it's the same stuff as all those stuff of chemical connections, maybe sometimes even biological connections. And neurons and self-diagnosis will be easier then. So it's way better and easier for everyone. But as it's so much change that people seemingly don't do it already, I don't know. That's how the system seems to be in a way too slow, and harming the flow of this progress. And that was the case for coding all along. Okay, also because of the universities for some reason. Yeah, with that, without further ado, maybe I just open some of this. And then the video is probably finished. I don't know which extension is harming the load of this. I don't think this extension is a problem. So I have to see how much you can see this second tab. Okay, now it's invisible. I also just check if it's working, this tab, or not. Okay, it is working on this tab. That's 100% not the fault of the YouTube Fun extension. Yeah, so I don't know how to do this now. I've just so many extensions that I really don't know which of them is harming this extension. So maybe I share another screen, the complete screen. Yes. Entire screen. So now you should be able to cleared, yes. So for some reason, extension blocked it, so this is in a way physically almost terribly how they are measuring stuff of certain chemicals. And but I have to say that I wanted to react to some of those videos, but I have to do that later, because this is already taking really long and I have to bake something further. It's taking some time to dehydrate and combine. Maybe it's doing the same stuff if I'm already just heating it. It's possible, especially if I have enough liquids to do that, which are further implementing and improving that. So these grids, I don't know if I should learn those 2D things, and I know now how to draw them and all those stuff, but yeah, it's just not that good as this part. If you just know, I mean, if you play Lego, you don't learn by heart how not Lego, but the magnets stuff, figures, I don't know how it's called. When I was a kid, I think I maybe at least played with some of them. In Oberhausen I saw big things of that. So they also made cars out of those things, and it's exactly like that. So just problem would be that if you have those 3D models in reality, obviously they can be altered if you mess something up. But this is impossible to be wrong, especially if you can move it around. And yeah. Now we just need the knowledge here, how much some electric current data that you got from heating it when it was combined, and all those stuff. So this is just not that useful. It's really like acting like you don't have a PC. There is no possible good trade-off or knowledge that you can get from those old things, as far as I know. maybe even very implementing wrong imaginations or knowledge is if you don't learn it right, and especially if you know too much stuff and then you remember it's wrong for some reason. I don't know if it's very unlikely, but I mean, mistakes are sometimes made, and that's not even possible with those programs, so it's really bullshit. It's like you would need to do calculations in school or university with a calculator. You would just so regular calculations which you can do, which a lot of people already controlled and verified so far, which doesn't make sense. So just use another calculator. That's not really a good comparison. Therefore, it is not really. Also, and this is, I have seen those stuff from mathematics, but also I don't really know how and why this would give you an advantage above this. This is just rubbish. I learned so much rubbish, and it's only harming, it's nothing useful at all. Only the opposite. Oh, okay, so this is what some of the structures are about. Probably. Yeah, like that. Okay. So they are not just doubles. If you remember that wrong, and you can't remember it wrong in those programs, right? I don't know if they even use those modern stuff. How they act like it doesn't exist, even though they have it. I don't know. There is no possible positive thing from that. So it's almost like Tesla is also not, he was not too far in the future, but it also in the past you just tried things out, and that's also what you do in chemistry. And so this is also a very useful website, probably, for so much of those stuff. But again, even without AI, this is extremely outdated. And no one can really profit for that. Obviously, it's exponentially bad.
Und das den Haken bei.
So this is also again about those experiments of whatever heating or whatever you do in those stuff. Or at least about some kind of futuristic stuff. Which should already be there. Not be like a thing that
D-Spektrum, das 1H-Spektrum gezeigt. In diesem Spektrum zu referenzieren, müssen zunächst das 1H-Spektrum und das 13C-Spektrum referenziert werden.
Yes, this is about spectrography. By neutrons.
You can create a plot type. For example, ability to save your customized graph as a template, allowing you to reuse the same design in the future. Easy way to view the layer and additionally, to access advanced fitting features, check the fitting option and select from the various available options. You can
ein Molekulargewicht, jede Spalte ein Datensatz. Weitere Unterschiede von Origin zu Excel sind Sparklines, aber auch Kopfzeilen, die die Spalten erklären. In den Spalten selbst stehen nur die Messwerte. Origin kann auf höherem Niveau Messdaten plotten, manipulieren und durch Fits beschreiben. Dagegen sind Berechnungen für Tabellenkalkulationen in Origin nur schlecht oder gar nicht abbildbar. Excel und Origin ergänzen sich also gegenseitig. Und für jedes Problem musst du genau überlegen, welches Programm du verwenden möchtest. In diesem Digicam-Video hast du gelernt, was der Unterschied zwischen Excel und Origin ist und wann welches Programm besser geeignet ist.
Was soll der Modell funktionieren?
So in finance I already worked and got a certificate for Excel, which and also programs like Excel, which implemented stuff from different coding languages, but mainly Python, I think. Maybe it was its own coding language.
Häufig genutzte Modell.
So
Dabei verfügt das
Falten. Kannst du deine Achsenbeschriftung speichern, klicke auf Anwenden und abschließend auf OK. In diesem Digicam-Video zu erstellen, klicke oben auf den Reiter Titel und setze dann einen Haken bei Zeigen. Anschließend kannst du deine Achsenbeschriftung neben Text eingeben. Die Farbe der Beschriftung kannst du im Job.
Yeah, so I really don't know if it's as good as they at least have plugins sometimes here. If it's as good as Microsoft Paint, which was already very good, or I mean even some of the Sony programs maybe had some positive things besides the two of them. But most of the time a lot of modern programs like 4D Max are better, even though they are not getting
Die Nutzung wechselst du Bild nach beleuchteten.
a lot of different or more improved as much as it could probably. This is also about literature, it seems. Yeah, so those are some very basic programs which are probably not really
Über den
about
Maustaste klicken.
chemistry initially. This is how to get some books or something, actually in an overcomplicated way, I guess. It's not like always a bad way, but sometimes it is. I mean, Chrome is also better than the Explorer, even though there was not a lot of things seemingly happening differently. I don't know.
Hallo.
Why it is like that, but it seemingly is like that.
Bei gleich.
Von deinem PC. Gespeichert nun aus, klicke auf Save a copy of this project und wähle Create a project copy in the cloud aus.
This is about scientific paper work and how to add them up, but it's also possible, I think, with Google extensions more intuitively, more beautifully, more intuitively, so there are not always big improvements, obviously, in all those things, but big enough to be way better. Just like with browsers, I already said. This is about experiments.
Im Video lernen.
At least in electronical lab.
Erstellten Experimente ansehen und eine Vorlage oder ein Datenbankelement ändern, wechsle auf die entsprechende Seite. Öffnest du zum auf deinen Benutzer ein.
I mean, even with Google, I remember when the first AI models, which were not even, I think, about 3D video generation in Google virtual notebooks. They were not really intuitive or easy to use. But there are so many stuff, so many programs now and sites which make it extremely easy. And I mean, maybe AI did a lot of work there, but I don't think that AI alone did it. Can do that, but yeah. So this is an electronic lab, but again with those two-dimensional structures which you won't use in the future, I guess. There's already now not really use for them. Even now it would be more intuitive to use 3D models, and our profs often use 3D models when they are explaining stuff to university. Yeah, so, but how would you have, so, I mean, as I said, the play stuff which I played with, which I meant with all those magnets, which is comparable to this, it was not very expensive if you compare to other things, maybe. And that would have been a better option, maybe. But oh, okay. Drawing them is just as overcomplicated as yeah, as constructing them like Legos.
Wird bei LaTeX in
it's not Lego, I think it's... Is it Fischer Technik? I have to... Technik. It looks a lot like it. Oh, this is even better. Oh, it's not the thing which I remember. There's cable car. Okay, it's not that, I don't know what's the name of the stuff is.
Tabellen einfügen, die dazugehörigen Bohraus mit Schalen und hier HE für Helium. Speichere und überprüfe deine Darstellung. Die Pakete helfen Use Package in eckigen Klammern mit C1 Backslash Klammern nach dem Befehl ein. Die Unterbildung erstellen. Beginnend mit dem Befehl Backslash Begin in geschweiften Klammern Figure und endend mit dem Befehl
So this is about graphics. Seemingly, I don't know. It's about much of chemistry at all. Finally, this round things, maybe also this can be round, I don't know, it's better, I like it more like that. That is also my intention. It's just less harming looking. It's just like that. And it's insane that there is no software existing which is in a way doing what this, all those web pages try to, or even no web app really, one web app for whatever, for Google Scholar. I don't know where Google Scholar is not at all like that. At the moment, if you watch Google Scholar, it could very likely be that you don't know at all what they are saying there, and in reality they are just, I don't know, doing very basic geometric, what is it called? Thing that I did first in my, when I was a kid. The topic is topology. It's geometry. So topology is probably other thing that I would how pleasing, you can't do that wrong without the perfect. Very similar to that. You also don't read newspapers which are handwritten anymore. So, or even hand printed. These days are luckily not present anymore, even though there can be very artistic and beautiful things there, but it can also be done with a lot of digital stuff, even not as perfect sometimes maybe, but almost very close, and also it can be synced morphed into each other extremely easily, so it's almost there. Can't get much better than that in those parts. And like here.
Als nächstes und
Also this is about overview, graphical stuff. Yeah, so the ELAB is good. Probably maybe even their own lab. And this origin software seems to be the best so far, with even some implementations to apps of some kind of, oh, it's all from the same brand even here. It's not even from by Google. The store, these extensions, they're not all working that much as Google all the time.
Eine Formel, ein dreidimensionales. Die Darstellung Dots Only zeigt die Van der Waals-Radien an, während Disks eine eher comichafte Darstellung des befinden.
Also, this is the only thing which is really needed. Everything else can just implement one thing, I guess, because it's actually never better. And even if you just zoom out of the program, it looks sometimes like some of those
Select new and
stuff. So it's just like an add-on which is already there. You also don't draw a circle by hand every time, even though it can be useful as a gimmick, as a gem.
popular. Find Origin Workspace are up. To check to see.
Yeah, so this really just shows that it's not that, and I don't know, actually I have so much stuff which is in pipeline in a way, which is on the way for those stuff, and I guess as it's so easy and so good to use programs for chemistry and together with machines all together, you can charge a lot for people to use all this stuff. So it's definitely a thing that I would keep an eye on and try to probably improve on doing somehow. But I don't know if it would take way too long if I do it alone, even if it would be a better result for some reason. And I mean, if I co-do it or review it, it can even be improved, obviously, like a lot of the things already happened already in the past.